Hello, everyone. I'm Josiah Koipalai.
And I'm Joshua Koipalai. Thank you for joining the live stream. Today we're going to be working on another page from Caden and the Yak Thieves,
And
our
I'll
next
be
comic project.
Yeah, and I'll be commenting on it while you draw it.
Yeah, I'm going to be working on the sketch. It's the second sketch stage of the process before the inking stage.
Okay.
So, yeah, last time I was inking a page, and I posted that page. Actually, just posted 2 new pages from Caden and the Yak Thieves yesterday on my Patreon, and you can actually see those pages for free there on Patreon if you become a member, sign up with your email address, and
It's free, right?
yeah. So you can, if you join the Patreon for free, you can check out the page that I drew last week on the live stream, and the link to that is in the description box below. And also, remember to, if you have any questions as we're talking or working on the comic,
You can put
feel
it in the
free
chat.
to ask them in the comments. And Josiah will read them. And
Yeah. So, now you're gonna...
now I'm gonna go over to my drawing program. I'm drawing with a pen on this drawing tablet. All right.
Yeah. So, let's see. We have
So
Luke Murray says the music is an absolute vibe.
I found that old music.
And Samuel Sminson's here. She
Oh,
says,
hello, Samuel.
Sminson.
So, so this page,
Yeah.
what I'm doing now is, I took the page that I drafted out on paper, and scanned it into the computer, and I made the lines blue.
So this is wait. This is the drawing. This is actually the.
This is the pencil.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Wow.
And so the blue lines are the pencil.
I didn't know you could do that. That's cool.
I turned them blue,
Uh-huh.
and then I'm gonna turn the
Yeah, so-
the opacity down so they're really light, so I can do another sketch layer over it, because these are really just, they're rough, representations of where the characters are, where the trees are,
Yeah.
where everything is in the scene. And then also I have the comic, the speech bubbles that I have, and I have them all in these bubbles that I can edit the speech,
Right.
the text. So
and speaking of text, Samuel Svinson says, "P.S. I have a Patreon too, so check that out. Go to his Patreon. He's a great comic artist."
yeah.
Yeah. Anyone who's watching should
Check out Samuel Svinson's comics.
Yeah, you're one of his Patreons too, right?
Yeah. So, let's see.
Sorry to interrupt there.
Yeah, I'm using these text bubbles
Right.
that are that you create with the. I'll show you how it
Does it see that? Yeah, so they can see that, all the other side things that are going on.
So yeah, I'll show you this speech bubble maker that this program has.
Okay, so you
which
just
is-
use that?
Yeah, which
Okay.
which
It's
is
a
pretty. Which
it's-
I'm using this time because
Uh-huh.
I didn't use it for the Walby's Road Trip Adventure. I just drew the bubbles,
Oh.
and I like how that looks.
Yeah.
But I like the
This is Walby's Road Trip Adventure, by the way. You mentioned it.
I don't think they can.
Joshua's... Oh, wait. Pull it closer?
Yeah,
Okay.
this is Walby's Road Trip Adventure. It's a 80-page graphic novel
More than 300 full-color drawings. Very beautiful.
that I published last year, and it's available on walbycomics.com.
Here's a picture of the Grand Canyon. And, let's see what
So
else we have
anyways,
here.
let me show you.
Mount Rushmore. It's a story of a road trip adventure across the country. Great.
Walby Brown and his dog Wilbur.
Yeah.
So this is you can just
Okay.
drag and it makes bubbles like this.
So I thought you had to just draw some, find the oval tool and then fill it and then put an outline on it.
So and then what this does is then you can click on it,
Mhm.
and it kind of aligns the text to the middle,
Okay.
so you can start typing it. You know,
Oh, and
And
then it doesn't have small letters, right? It has just different letters, so that when you have the same letter in the same, it
Yeah.
doesn't have like if you type a T.
yeah,
and
I'm,
then
I'm using all caps.
oh, okay. Yeah,
So,
but-
anyways, but what's neat about it is
Mhm.
you can edit the text. You know,
right.
you can resize the bubbles like this. You can take it and make them bigger
Mhm.
or smaller. But anyways, I have these, and I have them on another layer, and I'm turning them down so I can turn them off or leave them on to see like I don't want to have anything like bumping into the bubbles. You want to
Yeah.
have a nice
Okay.
layout so everything is
Ah.
easy to read and easy to look at.
That is an advantage of doing it on a computer, I guess, because otherwise you have to draw the bubbles first and then draw everything,
Yeah.
around that, around
Mhm.
them.
So
Kind of gets in the way.
yeah.
So
So
now-
now, one more thing is when I drafted out this page, I hadn't planned out the designs
Oh, okay.
for the merchants on the scene,
Yeah.
and so
There's this.
later
Yeah.
I just made some simple sketches
Mhm.
of these guys, the two merchants,
Yeah.
to plan out what clothes they wear and
Yeah.
what
So you
their-
kind of did like Chinese clothes, right?
yeah.
You made.
Yeah,
We
so
decided
he'll-
to have them be Chinese.
hmm One will have a little bit more fancy clothes
Uh-huh.
with this hat and
Yeah.
a little bit more nice looking robe.
I think you can do boots. It's probably pretty good, right? Because I
Mhm.
mean they're in the snow, so it just makes sense that they'd be wearing snow boots. All right. So what's happening in
and-
this scene? Should we talk about that, or what else is there anything
Yeah,
else to talk
so
about?
this is the well, first of all, if you'd like to see the excerpt of the first 11 pages of the story, make sure you check that out. That'll be at walbycomics.com, and there's a link to that in the description box below.
Mhm.
And so
And if you want to see all the pages that are coming out,
yeah, as I
Mhm.
finish them, you can become a member at my Patreon,
yeah.
which is also in the description box below.
But anyway, in the last live stream, the chief issued set out the posse to go find the yak thieves, the rustlers, and he sent out little groups of people to go off and look for them. One of the groups is Batar and his brother Caden and their friend Ublek. And they come across some people camped nearby, and they think they're the rustlers, so they raid their camp. Basically, well, they come and confront them, but it turns out they're not rustlers. They're just some merchants. The reason they thought they were rustlers is because they have a big stack of
Furs.
fur, and they think that must be the yak skins, and they must have killed them and got the fur. But they turned out to just be reindeer and stoat and
Mink.
fox and other animals.
Or something.
Yeah, and so, but they
Also-
give them a clue. It's
Um,
just it's not that page.
Also,
really.
yeah, this stage is, the last time I did the inking stage, which was inking over the layer that I'm doing right now,
Uh-huh.
and so it was more like basically following what I had already done.
Uh-huh.
And this is kind of a bigger step between the stages.
Right.
So it's going to be one where I'm gonna,
You're gonna make more.
it's-
There's gonna be more changes, right? Or
but it's
like,
it's,
for instance, this bow doesn't look like it's flexed. Actually, it looks like
Mhm.
it looks like a stationary bow.
yeah. So
I
I'm
want to
gonna
change that.
Yeah, like none of the details are added in, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna be doing that all. And so it's a stage that takes more thought, and
Yeah.
concentration. So I'm gonna be a little bit more focused, and
Right.
Trying to focus on getting
Uh-huh.
stuff done on this one.
Yeah. So,
But we want to talk about like our, coming up with stories.
Yeah, we'll talk
coming
about
up with this story,
yeah.
the idea, and about writing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
But first, I want to talk a little bit about this scene, like
Okay.
the historicalness of it. So I researched. So what I could find is that the area that this takes place in is Siberia, and it was pretty popular for fur. That's actually the Khan would collect tributes, not in gold but in fur. So there is kind of historical accuracy to have fur traders there. I don't know if they would be Chinese. If that's historically accurate, but there's definitely a lot of Chinese people working in different ways.
Were there
the Mongol Empire?
Were there Mongol merchants that traded things, or
I think,
or were they from other? Were they like from?
yeah,
Were they like Siberian or what? What cultures were around there that?
So
that
around there,
were
there would be the
merchants?
native people, the Turkic people who live there, and
Mhm.
and they weren't nomads. They were sedentary
the
peoples. They would
Mongols-
raise reindeer and stuff, and the Mongols colonized that place. They moved in and settled there, and they took over those people, and they would collect tributes in fur, like I said,
Mhm.
and the Mongols relied on sedentary people who
Mm.
for things that they, I was talking about how they made their own things. They made their own bows and saddles and whatnot.
Mhm.
But for luxury things, they would kind of rely pretty heavily on the sedentary people, non-nomadic
'Cause
people.
They were all over the world,
Yeah.
So they would have traded with lots of people.
Yeah.
like all over the place.
It was a vast empire, so they'd be trading with the West and in China and Siberia, and let me see, what did I write in my notes? What did we say? Things I want to bring up. So they would, yeah. So I want to also talk a little bit about the nomadic lifestyle. What we were talking about last week, it's about they would travel seasonally, raise their herds.
Mhm.
They'd have flocks. They'd have, so they'd be herdsmen, shepherds. So they'd be very good at riding on horses, and also they would trade with. Of course, like I said, they'd be trading with. So they were merchants, kind of, right? They'd trade with the out people, with the settled people, or if they couldn't trade, they just raid them, take it.
So this
of course.
is Caden I'm working on right here.
Yeah. So everything they do, raiding and riding on horseback and bow and arrows, it turns out makes you a very good soldier. So basically, every male in the Mongol Empire was a soldier, effectively. They had a huge reserve, basically an infinite reserve of just every man was able to do it.
Wow.
Ride on horseback and shoot, and have some basic military tactics. And they would organize their army. Actually, Genghis Khan was the one who implemented the organizing based on groups of 10. So the smallest group is 10 people. They live together. They make all their own equipment.
Mhm.
Live in a yurt
Yeah.
that they put up
10
themselves.
people. So
10 people
would
yeah.
be a clan.
No,
Or would be a-
I'm talking about a clan wouldn't be 10. I'm talking about an Arban. It's like a little smallest group in the military.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we have a scene on this where there's a military base
Yeah.
and has like a colonel and then his army.
Right. Yeah. So
which is
he would
probably
command.
it was probably like a training
Yeah.
group place. Like
Mhm.
they're not like being dispatched. Like
They're not fighting there. They're just probably stationed there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's gonna command like 1,000 people, probably, the colonel.
Mhm.
I'm not. You could use tech. I'm not using the terms, the proper terms in the Mongol Empire of like what the leader of 1,000 people, the leader of 10 people. I kind of want to use more relatable terms,
Yeah.
so I go with terms people understand. And Ben says hello. Ben
Oh.
Klein. Hi,
Well,
Ben.
thanks for joining.
And they'd be self-reliant. They would make all their own stuff. They
Yeah.
wouldn't rely on rations that come in.
So the armies would make their own stuff.
Yes.
Or, really. I see.
Down to I'm just saying, it's the basic unit, the Arban.
Mm.
They would make all their own equipment, get all their own food. The horses, the Mongol pony, didn't need hay, so they wouldn't need like this supply chain of hay coming in and fodder and stuff for their horses. They would just graze on the grass. So that's one thing that made them very powerful, the Mongol Empire. That's probably why they were able to spread so far and take over so much of the world, is because they didn't unlike the Romans or some of these other great conquerors, they really needed to set up a supply chain. You know, they needed to set up roads to get supplies to everything they needed came on the supply. You know,
Yeah.
supply wagons that they set up. But the Mongols didn't do that. They could hunt for themselves. They were very versatile. The horses they fed themselves.
Hmm.
They would just raid other people's supply lines for things.
Yeah.
That's
Also, something that I'm going to be doing sometimes is flipping the canvas over to see if there are any things that look off balance.
why do you need to do that?
Because the things might be a little bit like, if I'm drawing a face
Uh-huh.
that looks where like things are disproportionate or something, you know, sometimes I don't see it while I'm working on it, but if I do this thing that flips the canvas, then it's kind of like I'm just seeing
Oh.
it for the first time.
That eye looks a lot bigger, right? I mean,
Yeah. So then it would give me a fresh view of it, and I'd be
That's
able
interesting.
to fix things. So that's something that I'm going to be doing while I work on this part.
so how would you do that if you're doing it on paper? Would you ever?
hold it up to a mirror
Oh, okay.
or
Interesting. Did people do that? Like, is that a thing that?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
people do that, or look at it upside down. That
Oh, really?
could help.
I see. Huh. That's interesting.
And
Yeah.
So I see that this horse, some things.
Uh-huh.
Now I notice some things about this horse that don't look right. This head needs to be coming forwards a little bit more. But anyways, what were you saying?
What was I saying? Oh yeah, so about the Mongol Empire's the army units. Yeah, so then also they would they would control themselves. They would just get orders from they would have a leader of the 10 people, and he would be chosen not by not by his seniors. He'd be elected by his comrades.
Okay.
So it made a family. It made like a really close, tight knit group. And then someone commanded 10 of those groups, and then it kind of went up from there.
I see.
To thousands, tens of thousands, so on. I think we're gonna say like this army camp is like in the thousands of people, right?
Uh-huh.
And they would have their own horses, their own livestock. Their families would be with them, their animals, of course, yeah, dogs and stuff, whatnot, and their wives and slaves would travel with them as well.
Actually, this bow is not going to be completely flexed.
Oh, that's
because he's
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so one thing I wanted to do is not have, as in Hollywood, where people wait for several minutes with their bows drawn, waiting to fire. That's just not a thing that happened. You can't do
Because
that.
he's not even gonna fire. Like,
No.
he's not even. It's just like
It's not like a gun. You can't just point it at someone drawn. It's
Yeah.
really dangerous.
it could. Yeah.
You little slip and you're just gonna let go and kill the person.
He's just saying to stick your hands up. He's
Yeah,
not-
because he could draw, right? Like he's
yeah,
threatening to
and
draw.
but that would be too dangerous to do.
Yeah, volleys weren't really a common thing actually, where people all draw and then shoot at the same time. Archers kind of worked autonomously. They just the order would be just fire, and they would aim and they'd shoot.
Mhm.
That's way better than holding for a long time and your arm's gonna wear out and then you're gonna be weak and you're not even strong enough to aim at that point. Yeah, so that's right. That's why it's not gonna be fully flexed.
Yes.
Or whatever the word. I don't know archery terms actually. I'm probably saying it all wrong. So let's see.
Some of this is going to be go
It's
a
nice
little
to
bit
sash.
slower because but
So you're actually making
but parts
choices,
of it,
right?
yeah, it's the most like it's the part that burns the most brain cells probably.
Yeah.
But some of it is going to go fast because I'm used to drawing their clothes and I'm used to drawing them now.
Yeah.
Like, so this is going to be Tashi over here,
Yeah.
and this is going to be Ublek, and this is going to be Batar, and then this is going to be the merchants over here. By
that
their
looks
fire.
like the Tin Man from, like what's it called?
The what?
The what's it called? No, Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, that hat, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, let's see, what was I talking about? The Mongol Empire and stuff. Well, should we just go on to this? Should we go talk about the writing stuff, the writing ideas that we're going to talk about? Should we go on to that now?
Mhm.
I think I said everything I wanted to say about the Mongol Empire so far, and merchants and stuff. I know in Siberia that's where they got their fur from. Also, another thing is Siberia had trees, and you need trees to smelt ore and make iron and steel and stuff. So
You mean they had trees to burn?
they had trees to burn. Yeah, so they in the steppe
Or-
there were just no trees. You know,
Really?
yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
But are you sure there's no trees? I mean,
Only around rivers.
I
But
see.
like if you're out in the open somewhere, you know, they don't have trees.
this is gonna be
They just burn cow chips. and
this is
stuff.
a lot of snow here on this scene because
Yeah.
there's a big snow storm. Or yeah.
It would snow the night before.
Snowfall.
This is the first scene where they're like out in the snow, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there was the previous scene where the
Yeah. The 2 pages before.
so we're gonna when you want to try to show different types of snowfall kind of situations, right? Like
Yeah.
okay,
Because it's gonna be there are gonna be a lot of, I think it's gonna make a lot of pretty scenes in this, like throughout the story
Yeah.
because with the snow.
yeah, and the
Because
ice.
like I love
that comes later.
drawing snow with like
Yeah,
trees with with
Uh-huh.
scenes with trees with snow on them, and then like the way light affects the snow.
oh, and the
the color
warm
of the
light coming
snow.
out of the yurts.
Yeah,
in
or
the
like yeah
in the cold snowiness.
like the contrast between warm and cool colors.
Yeah.
is something that makes things
Oh,
look really
and there's
pretty.
gonna be the icy blue when they get
Mhm.
to the lake.
Yeah.
That's gonna look cool. But I don't know how if we should tell more about. I don't want to tell much about the lake scene because that might spoil some of the story, right? So,
Mhm.
so I thought we could talk about the story idea process. So the first thing you need to do is, you know, when we were making this story, the first thing we did is we kind of came up with the world,
Mhm.
and it comes from ancient Mongol culture and also contemporary Mongolian culture.
Mhm.
So we watch things like travel videos and documentaries about Mongolia, and of course history about Mongolia too. And then also things like, you know, TV show YouTube channels where they you know about traveling to Mongolia,
Mhm.
food channels, you know, where they talk about food, and also like music and media, their movies and things, what they have in them, like music videos from bands, Mongolian bands. You know, I get a lot of inspiration from that stuff.
Yeah, like you watched the Mongol cooking channel
Mhm.
or like some people in Mongolia
Yeah,
that cooked like that live out in yurts and stuff. And
traditional way, the traditional cooking methods, and you know you get to see things like this, like the herding. Well, not the raiding people, but riding around and
Yeah.
on horseback because they still do it today. A third of Mongolia is still nomadic. Let's see. Samuel Spinson says, "I can't. This is gonna be a fun scene. I can tell. Yeah, this is.
Yeah.
This is a really funny. This is gonna be a really on the next page too, right? Because it's a pretty funny part. What happens?
Mhm.
I don't want to tell what happens. The pages will be coming out at some point, so
Mhm.
you can see it then. Anyway, and then I thought of, you know, I have to write characters. What are they going to be like? Well, who are these people? They ride around on horses. They raise cows.
Mhm.
Wide open prairies. Who does it sound like?
Cowboys.
Yeah. So I thought the closest thing I can compare this to is cowboys.
Mhm.
So I kind of drew from westerns, you know, things like Gunsmoke, radio shows, Lone Ranger, Hopalong Cassidy, you know, stories about cowboys and rustlers.
That would they would probably have a similar life because
Yeah,
they would have the same you know, they would kind of be the same type of people.
yeah, they're simple
Hardworking.
people, hardworking, not very sophisticated, but just
Get the
practical
job
down.
done.
Yeah, kind of the homespun philosophy kind of way of life, you know.
Mhm.
And So that's world building stuff, right? So you have this world. Now, a great way to generate a story is to have characters, that you understand really well,
Yeah.
and put them in that world kind of mentally, and think about what they would do. You know their character well. Well, how do they react? What do they do?
So that's kind of where the story came from.
Yeah, the story just kind of generates itself.
Yeah. So, well, another thing is, this was kind of we know where the story is going. We know, like, we had a goal for this story, where it was gonna lead to, and so, and then knowing the characters' personalities.
Yeah,
that
is actually kind of an idea, right? It's kind of like the maze idea. You start some people start at the end and get to the beginning. Well, you have the beginning, you have the end, and then you have a thing you want to get. You see a thing you want to get to.
How do you get there by knowing your characters?
Yeah,
and they should have personalities that.
Yeah. So,
like for Walby, a lot of the story came out of just thinking about, how would Walby work in this situation?
Right.
Like, what if Walby fell into it, or,
so Walby presents you with the situation. He falls in the well, and then
what if Walby finds a secret bandit hideout?
Right.
What if,
or that.
What if he discovers a secret burger sauce recipe that some burger chef, wants to keep a secret, and then,
exactly,
and then knowing Walby's personality, very innocent and curious,
and then knowing their character, you can think about what is the antithesis of that. What would challenge them?
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Right, and then
that's true.
So that taints it. That gives you ideas. That gives you ideas
like
to put in.
Right? Like how do you contrast their character?
Yeah, like with dimensions of characters is like Walby is a very simple person, right? He doesn't understand espionage. Is what he just committed, right? Basically, or he's about to commit. So,
I don't know if that.
Well, it would be espionage if he told the burger sauce recipe to someone. So, but anyway, he doesn't understand the world of competitive business, right? He's simple. So the antithesis of that is high stakes business kind of situation.
Yeah.
So it makes that's a one dimension, right? That's and so that helps you to know what to have in a story, right? Like the thing that kind of challenges your character. And also, of course, when you gotta stay true. You also stay true to like their time and their period. So this is true to Mongolian. What a Mongol culture and whatnot. Let's see. So, another important thing to do is to listen to advice. Listen to people. If someone has an idea, I seriously think about it for a long time. I don't just brush it off as a, in favor of my own ideas. If someone says, "What if you did this thing?" I consider it. I say, "Okay, I'll think about that." And because a lot of ideas came from suggestions, right? A lot of these ideas.
Yeah.
So you should definitely listen to people's ideas, I think. Let's see what else. And before you even go to start writing this is all advice about before you even start writing, right? All this stuff, I think is things you should think about before you even write it. You should have an idea of the whole arc of the story, right? You should have an idea of how it starts, how it's going to end, of course, and the scenes, a general understanding of that. And so should we talk? You have some ideas about storytelling, right?
I see.
Should we go with that?
Well, and also like having knowing the end of your story. It kind of helps.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to. You want to have the end of the story. You want to know what's going to happen before you start writing.
Well, I mean, that's what I think. But but what that helps is it helps all the stuff that happens in the story be more cohesive.
Oh yeah.
It helps you like when you're in a situation, and like you're trying to figure out what's going to happen. Like, what does this character need to do? It helps knowing like you can decide, is this something that gets me towards that goal? That's a important thing. I'm drawing Oobleck here with his big hat on.
Yeah, he's got a great Mongol hairstyle, right? That's
not his hair.
No, I'm saying that I'm talking about the hair. I'm talking about the hairstyle. I know that. That's the hood.
This little hair here.
Yeah, that little hair quiff. It's a Mongol hairstyle. it's you still see it today in Russia. A lot of people have that. I always say,
It's like it's this part, right here. This is the hair. It's just a little hair in front of on their forehead, right?
yeah, it's a kind of a weird haircut. You know, but it's common with men in Mongol or in Russia even today. You know, they threw off the Mongol oppression, but they still have that haircut. What happened? What gives? I mean, that's... So, should we talk a little about the story arc? What do you want to talk about these ideas? Yeah. So, another important thing for like knowing the ending, you know, is tied to knowing the goals of the character, right? The characters have motivations; they want something. Like you could, should we look the example of Walby?
Yeah.
Right?
So, well, like I'm trying to figure out a certain, you know, like kind of a framework for how to make stories, like what kind of elements stories should have of good storytelling, and like, but not just any story, because there's lots of types of stories,
Right.
but like what are the elements that are
you
in,
find good, you
that
like
are-
in a story?
yeah, that are
right?
in like a certain type of story that I like, that is
Yeah.
like
So you
that
have
has a lot of emotion,
Uh-huh.
and that gets you really attached to the characters.
So you have characters with a goal in mind at the beginning. You know, this is the status quo.
So yeah,
Situation,
I kind of tried to collect some things
Yeah.
on a
I think
paper.
this is a
that,
good summary because it
yeah, so
like
the
how
first
my
one
story
is the goal. Your character should have a goal.
right, and then there's obstacles in the way of their reaching
I
their
think
goal.
also another thing about that is
Yeah.
the goals. Like, different characters have different goals,
That's true.
and that, you know, the story can come out of that.
Yeah.
You know,
Uh-huh.
characters having contrasted goals.
Yeah.
That can make an interesting
I'm-
part
yeah,
of the story. Like in this one, that
Like obviously it could be the most simple example is you have the bad guy wants the opposite of what the good guy wants,
That's
and then
true.
they're fighting each other. But of course you can even have a group of people who
are not bad.
Yeah.
Some of them are, they're all
they're not against each other. They're not antithetical to each other, but they
like
disagree on
yeah,
a goal.
yeah,
Right?
or like how to get to the goal.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Or just they disagree philosophically.
Yeah.
Even that's often what makes a really good story is when it's a, kind of a philosophical kind of
yeah, like
right
like if you don't just make outright villains,
uh-huh.
you can make things more subtle. Like
This story I tell you it's not that deep philosophically, right? I mean
no, but something there's neat stuff that happens with that concept of the characters having different goals.
yeah.
So yeah,
So
what's another?
another thing you want to show is progress of your characters making some progress, right? You know.
Yeah, because if they shouldn't just. Well, wait. So what?
You want some
no. The
competency.
next step is
It's progress, yeah.
No.
A question. A question.
no
right?
resistant. Like
Resistance, yeah. That's what I was
Yeah.
talking about. I was talking about so resistance is anything, whether it be character or just physical objects or just that gets in the way between your character and the goals. It could be a lot of things. It could be an actual physical thing, like let's say it's a story about someone climbing a mountain and they're trying to physically get over it, and then that's the obstacle, right? That's the
yeah.
Or you have a bad guy who's trying to destroy the world.
Yeah,
The good guy wants to save the world.
That's so resistance,
Uh-huh.
a goal, and then resistance is what makes up most
Yeah.
of the story.
Or it could be a cultural thing, like someone who wants to
Uh-huh.
do something, but he's like how to explain this, like someone who wants to. What's a good example of this? He wants to save all the dogs in the world from all the stray dogs, and people are like, oh, they're stray dogs, I don't care about them. He's trying
Okay.
to. There's all kinds of obstacles, right? There's
Yeah.
there's so many obstacles
And
you can.
that's kind of
think
what makes up should make up most of your story.
Yeah.
That's what makes things interesting, is the conflict between
Yeah.
what your character wants and what's getting in the way.
It just comes out of the story, right? It just comes. The story just comes out of it. I mean.
Yeah. It basically writes itself from there.
And then you have questions, things.
Wait,
unknown-
What?
what?
And
Progress.
then
Oh, no,
progress.
progress, that's right.
Progress is you
You gotta show some progress. You gotta have.
Yeah.
You gotta have slightly competent characters, right? You gotta.
if there's only resistance
Uh-huh.
and you can't get to your goals, then if there's no progress, yeah. So progress is the steps towards the goals.
Oh, look! I missed a comment. Let's see. He said something here. For cowboys, it's gun smoke. For Mongols, it's arrow smoke. That's true.
Yeah, that's true.
Definitely. They did have flaming arrows.
The Mongols did.
Yeah, they used flaming arrows, probably more than anyone else. But anyway, they're not going to be using flaming arrows.
No. So, but like, you know, if there's only resistance, then your story will be too sad, and people will just stop reading it because it's just there's no victories, there's no
and then
no progress.
So then you also talked about questions, right?
Yeah,
questions can often be that.
So just in this certain type of story that I like, I like there to be things that aren't revealed, like not you don't know everything that's going on.
Yeah,
and there should be there should be questions about your characters, or questions about mystery things, like about what other people are doing, or
could be the answer. Answering the questions could be the key to the resistance.
Like
to figuring out the thing that's ahead of the obstacle.
Maybe there's some kind of puzzle or something that's not solved.
Right.
Or like in this story, there's questions about like where the yaks are, where the who the thieves are.
Right. Okay. And then you have surprise. Is that that's a part of a story?
Yeah.
What did you
So
say?
I think there should be like that could be kind of
Looks good.
Like,
wait, you're drawing the wrong clothes on him. He doesn't have the.
Oh, I drew the.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. He has the sleeves.
Yeah. But anyway, what were you saying?
Okay, I gotta focus more on this. But when
we're done with this,
surprises are I think are important. Like throwing things into the story that are unexpected.
Yeah.
To make it more interesting, and to make the reader want to keep going, because or even, and also questions, like having things that are a mystery for a long time that you keep it also makes the readers want to keep reading, because they want to keep reading to find out what it is. You kind of drop little hints
often
and stuff.
That's there's this idea of a hook in a story. We were talking about last time we were talking about, well, you're going to make a character who people are sympathetic to. Well, sometimes all you need is a question, like something intriguing put before you that you wonder about. Like, it makes you want to keep watching the thing. Like, why is this thing happening?
Yeah.
That's all you need sometimes. And that can hook people. So what about, we talked about intensity. So at some point you get to...
Yeah, so I wonder if we should kind of show this
the
graph really quick.
The character arc, or no, not
Like
the character
a story
arc, the
arc.
story arc graph,
So
which is very
this
important.
is just a thing that is backwards. Okay. So this is just a normal, like a well-known story arc.
Which is, and I think it's pretty good, right? It's a great start.
Yeah, so it starts with exposition. It starts with, like, for an example, in the Walby story, we start with Walby, we're learning about Walby.
Yeah.
Walby is a guy who works at a Sweetie Weetie factory, and we find out that he, things start kicking off and start going when he learns that he inherited his grandfather's cottage. And so then he starts traveling, and so there's the idea of the beginning and the middle and the end,
Right.
but
So there's this exposition here, kind of this from him, and then you get to the inciting incident about here. Something starts happening. You learn about him, and then the thing that kicks it off is that he's gonna go. He inherits the cabin, right? Or the house.
The cottage. Yeah. So then the story, there's rising action. Your story needs to reach a climax. So that is the most intense moment in the story, and for Walby, it's this time where he's he has all this gold that he is trying to get to Maple Valley, but then he runs into these bandits that are trying to steal it from him.
Right.
And so that whole scene is kind of the climax of it.
Yeah.
But it needs to.
You're talking about intensity.
Yeah. So
that's what you wrote here. But
I think
climax
stories
is a good word for it.
Stories need to reach this level where where it feels like it's more than resistance. It's like the it's where, like, you think everything is hopeless,
Yeah, yeah.
where the characters are past the point of no return,
Uh-huh.
where it looks like they will never reach their goal.
Right.
That's really it.
Yeah.
That's what
And often
that's what I like
when you
about
when you're writing a situation like that, try to make it even harder on them. Like make it even
So like
if there's any luck, always make it bad luck. You know, don't make luck that works on their side.
Yeah.
If it can go wrong, make it go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just make it as wrong as it
make
can
it
go.
go farther than you think of it first.
And
Like,
then figure out how to get them out of there.
Yeah. you got to reach the absolute bottom before you.
Yeah. So
Get them
that's
out of-
definitely the situation where they're
So and then
Stuck in
there's and then the end, like you, and then stories should have
there's a kind of a sense of
de-escalation.
Yeah.
From the climax to the end.
But also a thing I like in the story is where they're in that climax, when they're in that the situation,
Mhm.
out of that comes the solution,
Mhm.
and then there's the end of there's what you're
Yeah.
talking about, right?
Okay.
Like
So now now it's good to look at that, and then
yeah,
these things, these elements kind of fit into that.
yeah, and then you get to victory. You know, they get to where they reach their goal. Or actually, before you get to victory, hold on a second. There's
I'm gonna work on
growth from the you get your
Yeah.
characters learn from the situation. They
Yeah.
become different people. They could become
Mhm.
they become stronger for it,
Mhm.
and then they get their goal, the victory. You know, whatever goal that they were trying to.
I'm gonna start
for at the
working
beginning.
on Tashi,
Okay,
the dog.
so that's a
Running
good outline for
towards
us. Sorry,
Let me-
what were you saying?
He's running at the merchants.
Yeah.
And let me just find this picture that I'm.
Can they see this, or
I'm,
are you even
I'm
showing
gonna-
this?
I'm gonna
Okay.
add it in.
Okay. Oh, that's a good
This is a
picture.
picture of a mastiff, and there are different colors of mastiffs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let me add this into that.
Wow.
too.
That's a
Goodness.
cute little cuddly creature, isn't it?
Yeah. So this is a Tibetan mastiff. It's kind of a low quality picture of it, but it's running forwards.
Yep.
Towards.
I don't think you want that thing barreling at you at 100 miles an hour.
Here's another picture of a mastiff just to see.
Not
what
many
they look
people know
like.
about these dogs.
They're really
Little
big.
known. Yeah.
Oh,
A mastiff
I should
is
get
the
a-
dog where they got the idea for the Hound of the Baskerville, so you can imagine how big that is.
Yeah. So here's another picture. Some of these pictures are kind of low quality, but
Yeah. So
see how big they are.
Luke wants to know, how do you approach perspective on a panel like that one? You
Mm.
know, like where he.
Yeah.
got these-
Well, let me see if I can.
Yeah, because
The
like, did you
original-
even have a
so-
perspective? Like, do you even have a perspective? I mean, is there a
Well-
vanishing point and a?
Oh, perspective. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think I mainly was focusing on. Let me find the original draft that I did for this.
Okay.
So,
Did you have like lines and vanishing? Or,
No.
You don't always need that, right? You don't always.
I kind of started out with like the elements,
Uh-huh.
like how do they all fit into the scene where it's easy to see what's going on,
Uh-huh.
and then I kind of worked in the perspective of like the downhill thing, and it's going to be a little bit of like trying different stuff to make the horses look right.
Oh, okay.
Like they're on the.
So
on
you're
the
going to be
ground.
kind of moving it around a little bit to get it
Yeah,
in the right
but
direction.
let me find. So I started out as kind of a forward. Let me put this in.
Okay.
Does that work? Yeah. So this scene. Okay, it started out. I just drew it as them all rushing straight at them.
Yeah.
And this was kind of hard to understand,
Oh,
hard
okay,
to look
okay.
at.
Yeah, everything is on the same plane. It's like one. Yeah. it's
Yeah,
just-
so I
I think you showed me that, and I said I want it to kind of look like they're surrounding them. They're coming in
Yeah.
all directions.
so I took the two merchants and moved them closer to the fire, and
Is like the only thing you kept from it.
and then I got rid of the border on this so it could have more space for them to all be coming towards them.
Uh huh. Like
And-
this tree, like the perspective looks a little bit wrong, to be honest. Like this tree's kind of like it looks a little
Oh.
like it's sticking up like that way.
You're
It should
right.
probably be up a little bit like that.
Yeah,
I mean, when you draw
it,
it,
should show a
you'll-
little bit more of the branches and stuff.
Yeah.
You're right.
So let's see. Samuel Spinson wants to know, how do you make the panels? You talked about how you make the bubbles. How do you make the
Yeah.
panels?
So the panels are. They're. Let's see. So, there's a comic. There's a frame. There's a comic frame
So there's
maker.
there's a template. Is there
Well,
Tim-
you
like a template?
there are templates. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So when you go into making a first, let me finish about the perspective thing.
Okay.
So, I kind of certain things like having them on
Yeah.
having this this base here
Oh, okay.
where they are,
Oh.
and then kind of like thinking about I kind of drew different levels of like
Ah.
this is farther back in the distance,
Mhm.
and then like I drew these trees on there to kind of
Yeah.
help figure stuff out.
I guess the tricky thing is getting the horse's
horse-
feet
yeah.
to look like they're actually standing on the individual.
Yeah, the closer horses look a little bit more right.
Yeah, yeah.
I think this
I think I think
this
Oobleck's horse looks
Oobleck's
right.
horse, his legs need to be a little bit lower.
Oh.
Horses are especially tricky.
Yeah, well, that's the thing about this step is you can stretch things. You've been like lassoing things.
Yeah, I've
and
been
stretching
moving
them around.
stuff around,
We'll talk about that.
but for creating comic panels,
Uh huh.
it's where you go into like when you're creating a new canvas.
Mhm.
There's this thing that shows comic. There's a comic setting,
Ah.
and where you can choose. There's this I don't know if you can see this
Is it showing it?
selection thing, but
Let's see.
there's a thing
You-
that
yeah.
that lets you choose a template, or also if you just have a page, if you just have a sorry, I'll just try to go over this really quickly.
Mhm.
So if you have a canvas that you made, so you make a new canvas.
Okay.
There are these folders on the side that you could find. They're like, I think they're on this they're somewhere in the I think they're in this, if you go to window and then quick access,
Uh-huh.
I think it'll bring up these.
That's how you
these
made the first
folders.
one, but then you keep
So
using the same
these,
template.
These folders.
Uh-huh.
There's
Oh,
one
okay.
that's called,
I see, yeah.
you know, that has comic templates.
Yeah, and so it
And
just has
then-
four.
So,
It has the four
yeah, it has all
panels.
kinds of stuff.
Right. You're using the one with
It
four
has
panels.
all kinds of panels, and you can just drag them into your
Ah.
your your
I should
page.
zoom out, but
So that this made it a lot bigger. But you can
Okay.
you can adjust it and stuff.
yeah, that's
Well, that's one way of doing it. Or you can just take this frame creator.
uh-huh.
That's one of the tools, like your pen tool or your pencil tool or your, lasso or fill tool, and you just drag and can create a border, and in the sub settings you can find how to adjust the line width and stuff.
Yeah.
And then there are other tools that can make border splits and things. So that's
Mm-hmm.
that's how you do that.
So anyway, so we were talking about planning the comic.
Mhm.
So then it comes down to, so when you've done that, now you got to start writing it. And what I like to do is, you're gonna have to do several drafts of it. Okay, that's just inevitable. But what you're gonna do is, what I like to do at least, is I just write the first. So I write scene 1, and I write the general thing that happens there. I mean, the very general. That's the one thing that happens that's important. Like I might write
Like
scene. I don't know what scene this is, but like
yak,
this scene,
the boys,
the boys go and confront the merchants.
Yeah.
The boys meet with the merchants. They whatever.
Mhm.
That's the general thing that happens. And then scene 2, the boys ride along or talk after they have met after the merchant scene. Then I go along like that until I finish the whole book. I start at the beginning, go to the end,
Mhm.
and then I like to write everything
Mhm.
that happens in that scene.
Mm.
Start the first scene again, and under that I write, Caden walks in the room. Caden says this. Caden talks to this person.
Yeah.
Kind of. You might even say like, they talk about this thing. Like I don't write the conversations here, right? I just talk.
Mm.
Right. I write like what they do, what are all the bullet points, everything
Mhm.
that happens, and then I go along and do that under all the scenes, and then finally I go over and write the actual conversations and everything on a different page, on a different document, and that seems to work pretty good.
Then
Because
you
it feels like you
write
wrote-
the conversation. So
Yeah.
then you write the conversations, like all the text that goes into the bubbles.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's one big advantage for this is I don't have to worry. I'm not writing a novel. I don't have to worry about prose, right? Like
Mhm.
the exposition stuff, like the narrator.
Yeah, like
I just have character dialogue, so that's
you don't have to say like
I know that's really hard.
describe what Caden looks like. Describe what this layout is like, what the setup with the with the merchants and by the fire.
Yeah.
We're just showing it visually.
Yeah. And then when you go to write your characters, one important thing is that they don't all sound the same way.
Mhm.
Like, don't make them all sound like you, of course,
Mhm.
or make them all sound the same way. They're different people. They have different outlooks on life, and they have different attitudes. They'll talk differently, right? Like,
these our 3 characters here.
uh huh,
Caden is kind of a
ignorant, simple, kind of.
Yeah.
Does it? He
you can
just like
explain the 3 characters.
yeah. So he's kind of simple,
Mhm.
childlike.
Yeah.
Baatar is kind of to the point. He doesn't
Mhm.
talk much. I mean,
He likes to.
he doesn't mince his words. He just kind of
He knows a lot about other cultures
Pretty
and
serious.
stuff because he
Yeah.
he likes to hear
he's
stuff.
smart. He knows about things. Caden is kind of an ignorant.
He's more of a leader, right?
Yeah, he's more.
Baatar.
Baatar's more of a leader. Ublek is kind of quiet and contemplative.
Mhm.
He's kind of to his own. He likes to think. He doesn't seem very bright, but
He's the smartest of all of them.
yeah, he's really the smart one because he kind of thinks about things.
He
He's
has
very
his whole
philosophical.
outlook on life, like his
Mhm.
whole philosophy on life.
Oh yeah. What about Tashi? Tashi's
He just
just-
wants bones.
Yeah, just bones. Any time, the only thing he knows about is bones. If the word bones is said, then he's ready to go. Because he knows that's for him. He doesn't get anything else. Like, unless he catches it for himself. He just knows that the people they get to meet, he gets the bones. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the character justification there. So that makes the characters talk differently from each other, right? They say different words. They use different words, different frequencies. Also, characters would tend to some things that sound good, one character saying won't sound right for another person saying, right?
Mhm.
If Walby and Wilbur talk, you can't just interchange sentences,
Yeah.
right? You have to write it differently for both of them. And also, people talk differently when they're talking to different people, right?
Well, I mean, conversations. Sometimes there's just things that you need to have people saying
uh-huh.
to move the story along.
Yeah.
Like, we need to
Explain some plot things.
Like-
Explain some
like-
element of the story, some historical thing or something,
like saying
or what they're doing, or
saying that
that's definitely going to happen. You're going to use dialogue that way to explain things, right? But the really good dialogue is not in service of the story. It's more in service of the character, right? It's attacking. It's the characters, arguing or defending or justifying things.
But
that's the really good dialogue.
saying something that, like, we need to go look for the yak thieves.
Uh-huh.
That's something that needs to be said.
Yeah.
But then you got to think about which character is the most, is that the most fitting for,
Yeah. Sometimes it's better
Any-
just to move the story along. Have that's one thing you got to think about, like how long conversations go versus just cutting it short and moving the action along. Of course, these kind of the scenes where there's conversation are good to put in between the action scenes, like this one, right? Where there's some excitement. What you got to make it natural, right? Like, characters have to say things in a way that it just sounds like people talking. Of course, you don't want it to sound exactly like how people talk, because if you were to just transcribe actual dialogue, it would sound quite boring, right? It wouldn't sound. There would be a lot of ums and stuttering, and if you just or like looking for words, kind of want to polish it a little bit, right? The dialogue should be more polished. And what you kind of want to avoid doing is, looks like Mark Bjorklund says hi. Hi.
Oh. Hello.
What you want to avoid doing is just completely using your characters just to for like explaining plot points. Make it more like you don't use them to explain your world. You want to show it, right? Instead of telling it. You kind of want to, like, what would it look like for someone who wasn't familiar with our world, modern world, to come, to just be placed in our world. Someone from the past, right? Just came to our world and just watched people talk. Make it more like that. They could learn things about the world just from conversations with people, or listening to conversations with people between two people in our world.
Let me draw.
That looks good.
I think I'll draw this scene with. I'll finish drawing this guy here, this merchant. He has this hat, this little hat, just like this.
Oh, what kind of hat is that? What did you?
It was on a.
Excuse me.
It was like a picture with some old Chinese merchants.
Oh, okay.
And
I don't quite understand what kind of.
it goes like this.
Oh, okay. It's a different hat than you were drawing before.
Yeah, it's not the
Fur hat, not the fur-lined hat.
no.
Okay, so
It just has a little knot at the top of it.
one important thing is when you're gonna write a sentence someone's gonna say. Think about it in your head and then just write it down, and don't stop. Don't stop. Well, maybe I'll switch out this word. Write first, then edit. Think of it more of a like when you think of a sentence. You don't do it word by word, right? When you're about to say something,
Yeah.
you actually think of the whole cohesive sentence. Do it the same way when you write.
So, yeah, because it'll be more, like a.
It'll sound natural. It'll sound like someone. Yeah, sounds like what someone says.
Also,
In real
if you don't do that, if you don't just keep pushing through and writing more of the script down, then it'll just take so long. You'll just keep.
Yeah, you don't want to get hung up on
guessing yourself.
Yeah, on the one sentence.
You want to get through it and then look back and see if you like it or if you want to change stuff on it.
I think as a rule, the first thing you think of is usually the best. It seems like I would change things. It's better just go back and then I end up going back and writing the same thing that I came up with in the first place. Right? Have you noticed that?
Maybe.
Let's see. Expedition attacking. We were just talking about before this. We were talking about how, don't have the one person saying all the lines.
Yeah.
Like sometimes for me, I just default to having Batar say everything. Like sometimes switch it and have someone else say something. That's a good thing to do. Remember, so you can have all your characters talk. And emotion in stories is another important thing. You can have a range of emotions. Sadness and humor and stuff. Humor can be in any story, even in a serious story. It just has to be it just has to be placed in the right way. It can't undercut. This. It has to be appropriate, right?
Yeah. Let's see. What is there anything I should? Oh, it's like
It's almost time to finish, right?
Yeah.
We're
But is there?
gonna go for an hour, right? So,
Yeah.
is there anything else we
Is
need
it-
to?
I mean,
I think we can talk about some of this.
If
I
I-
have some notes here about story writing. We could probably talk
Well-
about them next time, right?
well, but okay. Should I
Oh,
try
the-
to draw anything?
There
else
was one
here?
thing. It looks like, Samuel Spinson said, "Oh, I tried that, but I couldn't find the panel layout I needed."
Hmm.
But so is there a way you could probably make a panel layout, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like this is a very particular panel layout. You didn't like find a,
Mm-hmm.
you didn't find a template for this.
Mm-hmm.
You had to draw these lines.
Yeah. Well, I took one and I edited it for this
Yeah. Okay.
because I wanted a specific, you know.
This is kind of a pretty
length.
unique one that you've been doing where you have because this is gonna be like a picture, a larger picture over here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's gonna be this little comic section put over it, right?
Yeah.
You've done that a
I
couple
guess
times.
I drew these two characters and most of Tashi.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's progress,
yeah,
right?
this was. Yeah, it was. I didn't get as much done this time, I guess, as last time, but this stage is a little bit more tricky to work on.
It's not like
and
inking,
talk
right?
about. Yeah, so I guess we'll save.
Yeah, we'll save that for next time. I
yeah.
have some other notes about story writing and stuff.
Mhm.
Maybe we can get into that.
And then this page will probably come out on the Patreon next week sometime.
Mhm.
So, and if you want to see the pages that the last two pages, you can see them for free if you join the Patreon. And that link and the link to my website is in the description box below. Oh wait, we can go over to this end. So, thank you everyone for joining.
I hope you
And,
enjoyed.
Yeah, thank you for all your questions, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.